Hello, and welcome back to Fractured. This is not a regular episode. I said that I was going to do a little bit of a tutorial type video for the jousting arena, so that's what I'm doing. First thing to discuss is the length of the jousting field. Mine is 75 blocks long. Now, you could very likely get away with shortening it back down to 50 blocks or maybe 60, but there is an advantage to having it longer anyway, which is by the time you get to this middle block, you're going pretty fast, which makes it much more challenging. And that challenge is pretty fun. You could also make it even more challenging by switching these to blue ice, which would mean that you're going even faster. So it's harder to predict where the other person is going to be. If you made the course shorter, it would be a little bit easier to hit the other person. But like I said, the challenge seems to be about right at this length. So obviously feel free to experiment, but I would kind of start at about this. This wasn't, a random number. This was arrived at by some experimentation, and it seems to be working really well. Next thing is the start mechanism. Got these almost invisible buttons. They're going to get changed out at either end. We've got gravel block and then this ice block pushed up. Now the gravel block is there so that when you aim your boat, you don't just keep spinning. The gravel slows you down. It kind of acts as drag on the boat so that you can get yourself aimed without all the nonsense of trying to turn a boat on ice. The ice block is pushed up so that you can already have your boat starting to row and both people will take off at the same time. The first rounds of testing were done before any of the redstone was added in, and everything worked just fine, honestly. The big advantage to having the buttons is just you don't have to listen to somebody, which could be yourself, sitting there over and over going 3, 2, 1, go. That gets really annoying. I will say that as the person who was saying all of that, and I was annoying myself. That's really the big advantage of it. So I'll just go through what the redstone systems are. All they do is control when the ice blocks drop and play a tone so that you know when the round is about to start. When you push the button, it pushes this sticky piston down, which pushes the observer down. That sends a pulse down this powered rail, gets picked up by this observer, sends a pulse down that powered rail, picked up by that observer, and so on and so forth. So you get down here, and what happens is the signal gets sent here. Now, all we really need to do is register when a button is pressed. So what we do is we push a redstone block over, that sends a signal here, gets picked up by the target block, which turns off this redstone torch. And when both of these buttons have been pushed, both of these torches will be off, which turns this one on, which then sends the signal to say, hey, we're ready to go. Yeah, there's a bunch of ways of doing this kind of system. This is just what I came up with. I was just playing around and felt like figuring something out on my own rather than watching tutorials on how to do things properly. Like I said, I'm sure there's way better ways of doing this, but all you really need is just a way to sort of signal, hey, this is done, and then wait. The loop back is just for spam protection. So if the person presses the button a bunch of times, it's not going to affect anything because this redstone effectively means that this signal is blocked. So this piston won't trigger again. When this gets powered, observer goes up, creates a pulse. That goes over here and then down into a pulse extender, which we'll take a look at in a second. The other thing it does is activate this sticky piston, which pushes this wood block over, which, because leaf blocks keep track of how close they are to the nearest wood block that is connected, that means that this leaf block is getting an update, which is picked up by the observer, which then parts out a signal to this redstone dust, which activates both of these pistons and pushes the redstone blocks back. So now the system is reset and ready for the next round. At the same time, the pulse comes over here, gets extended quite a bit, and then sent over to this way. That extended signal also comes down here, goes through the first 3 chimes, and then into the final note, but also gets routed around here where it will turn off this redstone torch, which will then unpower a piston above this, and as well as unpowering this piston. I originally had a different system that doesn't need to be this complicated, but this is where I am. Anyways, when those are unpowered, the ice block is withdrawn and the gravel block is allowed to fall. So now you can start going. And that's really it. It's a very simple system. There's a lot of better ways to do pretty much all of it. If you make your own jousting field, please let me know. I would love to see what other people do with this. And if you come up with a better way of doing the systems, I would love to see that too. One change I am going to make is I'm going to change it so that when you press the button, a light will go on in the middle. And then when the other person presses their button, a different light will go on, just so that you know which side is ready to go. That was the one thing I found during testing that I was slightly annoyed by, was I didn't necessarily know when I had pushed the button or not. And, having ADHD, sometimes I think I've done things and I haven't, or I just forget to do them in the first place, or, whatever. So having that reminder would have been helpful a couple times. But that's a fairly easy thing to hook up. That's going to do it for this one. As always, thanks for coming and hanging out. Hopefully this is useful. And like I said, if you create your own version, please do tell me about it. I would love to see this idea catch on, because it's an easy and fun game. The only, difficult part as far as resources go is getting the packed ice, which just requires a silk touch pickaxe. So it's really, really easy to set up if you have a nice flat area. I don't recommend building it where there's supposed to be ocean. All the water draining was very annoying. But that's just me making life harder for myself. That's my specialty. So I had to go with it. Yeah, have fun. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.